The Browns quarterback picture became a little bit clearer. Plus, one of the defensive leaders announced his abrupt retirement. All that and more on the next episode of the Dawgland podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dawgland podcast. I'm Anthony Jokey, he's Jack McCurry. And Jack, it wouldn't be Browns training camp if we didn't have a little bit of drama with the quarterback situation. And that is that the Browns quarterback, Kenny Pickett, suffered a hamstring injury towards the end of practice on Saturday. And the Browns are going to kind of reevaluate his position towards the end of this week. So, with that being said, obviously you don't want to see anybody get injured and, get snaps taken away while you're in the middle of training camp. What do you think this injury means for the Browns here as they try to figure out who is going to start week one against Cincinnati? Because you and I think we're kind of the belief that Pickett may start week one. Is that up in the air now? Do you think that's going to change? Is it going to be Flacco, one of these rookies? Where do you think we go from, the fact that he's now injured and is going to miss this week of training camp?
Yeah, I think it just makes it all much more clear, Anthony. You're getting conflicting reports already in camp. Like when the news broke, Adam Schefter said that Pickett was having good days, but like people that were actually out at Berea, it made it abundantly clear that like Joe Flacco was the clear-cut number one option right now for the Browns at quarterback. And now with the injury happening, like I was of the mindset on Monday where they should have just come out and said, Flacco's the starting quarterback. This is what we're going to go with for now. And then, proceed to maybe increase the amount of snaps Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders were getting in practice. Now that's happening, but they still haven't named a starter. I would imagine Pickett is out of the running. And now, part of me thinks they should give it to Flacco, but, part of me also wants to see these young guys. So it's kind of what this season's going to be all about, Anthony. We want the Browns to win, but also at the same time, we want to see these rookies get an opportunity so we can get a clear-cut evaluation before we head into 2026. So maybe that's what the Browns are going to do. The fact that they didn't announce a starter kind of makes me think that maybe they're leaving the door open for Gabriel or Sanders to potentially snatch the starting job away from Joe Flacco. But we will see. As far as Pickett goes, like it sucks. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I always felt like maybe he'd be the starter, but also at the same time, maybe he's going to be the odd man out. And I think now that might actually become clearer depending on how long he has to be out with this hamstring injury.
How do you feel this affects their preseason game plans? Because I feel like, you probably won't see Joe Flacco in the preseason. I really don't think there's any need for him to be out there. But if Kenny Pickett's unable to go, say, next week against Carolina, do we feel that, Dylan Gabriel's going to get the first half, Shedeur Sanders is going to get the second half? Unless Pickett's able to go, then maybe Pickett goes like the first quarter, and then you see those two rookies. How do you think, their plans may have changed because of this? And it depends on, how long he's really out. But if he's out for that game against Carolina, is this going to be first half Gabriel, second half Sanders, and kind of go from there?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the plan, depending on Pickett's availability. Maybe he plays a little bit. Maybe even Joe plays a little bit. I think maybe Stefanski has changed his mindset on the preseason and how much of the veterans are going to get to play. You see other teams play their guys at least some, maybe a drive or two. So maybe we'll see Flacco out there for a little bit. But I do think we'll see majority Gabriel and majority Shedeur Sanders during that game. They're not adding a quarterback, according to reports. So they're just going to roll with letting the young guys get the experience. And I think that's ultimately what we want to see. See these guys get some live game reps, albeit the preseason really doesn't mean anything. But it's good for them to get their experience of being out there in an NFL environment up against a live pass rush. and just to see what they got. So I do think you'll see probably the majority of it being Gabriel and Sanders out there next Friday. But if Pickett can go, which I feel like we'll know by Monday, definitely once they're down in Carolina, to see what uh, the outlook is on his injury. But I do think it'll be majority Gabriel and Sanders for that game.
Do you think the fact that they're having joint practices is going to bear an impact on who's going to play in that game, quarterback wise?
Well, I think quarterback right wise, yeah, it'll probably mean something. Like I with the joint practices, we probably won't see Flacco. Maybe we should see him for a little bit, because it's a live game environment. But I mean, he's seen enough in his time to where he really doesn't need that experience. So it'll probably just be Gabriel and Sanders. But yeah, I don't think the joint practices will shy him away too much from their plans. Maybe not in this game, but definitely probably like the next joint practices against the Eagles. So
Yeah, I'm curious to see how what they're going to say about the end of the week with Pickett's injury. If they're able to get him back out there next week, or if he's going to be out even longer. As we know, with Stefanski, really doesn't say much in terms of injury. They're just saying that they're taking it day by day. It could be day by day, week by week. You never really know, because they're always so uptight with the injury news and everything. So we'll see how that all comes to fruition here towards the end of the week if we get any more updates about Kenny Pickett. And I see you. What you got?
well, I was just gonna say, like the early rumors are that it's a grade 2 hamstring injury, and that's roughly 2 to 4 weeks. I even heard 3 to 6 weeks. But we'll just say 2 to 4. And if that's the case, he's back for the week against the Eagles. So I don't know if this really shuts down his chances of being in the quarterback competition. Because honestly, and I said this on X, for all the talk about the 4-man quarterback competition, I really think it was only 2 guys. I don't think they were going to give Gabriel or Sanders any shot at it. I think it was just going to be Flacco versus Pickett. But yeah, like you said, Stefanski's so tight-lipped. The organization's so tight-lipped on injuries. He said we're taking it day by day. But if it's a grade 2, like the rumors are suggesting, we're not going to see Pickett for the next couple weeks.
The Browns did have another subtraction from their team. However, this one wasn't because of injury. This one was due to a retirement. Jordan Hicks decided to retire after 23 total years of playing football. I think it was, what do you say, 13 years in the league that he played. And a statement: football has given me more than I could have ever imagined: purpose, discipline, brotherhood, and a platform to impact others. But most importantly, it showed me who I am outside the game. I leave this chapter with deep gratitude for every lesson, challenge, and victory. I'm proud of what I accomplished on the field, but even more proud of the man that I've become because of it. To my teammates, coaches, fans, and most importantly, my family, thank you for your unwavering support throughout this journey. I'm looking forward to this next season of life and all that it brings. I walk away with peace, knowing I gave football all I had and that the best is yet to come. Forever grateful, Jordan Hicks. So, obviously not in the Browns' plans of losing a linebacker due to retirement. We have seen second-round pick Carson Schlesinger, wear the green dot in practice. And how do we feel, the linebacker room as it currently sits? We kind of talked about it a little bit last podcast briefly because of the suspension or not the suspension, but the legal issues with Devin Bush. And we talked about, how things were wide open for some of these guys. Now that we have those legal issues to deal with and this retirement, where do we feel that this linebacker room is going to go?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and we did briefly talk about it because when we talked about Carson Swedginger, and now it's like, he's the lead guy in that room, which you would think with the veterans like Bush and Baker, and guys that have been in the system like Diabate, that they wouldn't try to put too much pressure on the second round pick, but from all accounts, he's been out there with the green dot, which means he's getting the play calls for the defense from Jim Schwartz, and he's making an impact out there. They said he's flying around, he's making plays. We saw the viral clip yesterday. Shout out to Cam Justice of him, lowering his shoulder into Dylan Sampson, and he definitely uh, brought the boom on that one. So you feel good about that early on in camp that he's making progress, stepping up as a leader on that defense. But yeah, like this linebacker room is so interesting now because you have Bush with his legal issues, Jerome Baker coming in as a free agent. He's a vet. He's probably going to be the leader of that room, honestly, in terms of veteran experience in the league. But then you got Diabate, who stepped up towards the end of last year. Winston Reed, who was the special teams ace last year. Nathaniel Watson entering year two. You got some undrafted rookies on the back end of the depth chart. So this linebacker room is going to be interesting. You look at the free agents out there; they're not too exciting unless they try to bring back Sione Takitaki, who's familiar with Jason Tarver, the linebacker coach, because he was here when Takitaki was here. But maybe they make a waiver wire pickup later on. But it's going to be interesting. Obviously, like some people were indifferent on Jordan Hicks, but when he was able to play last year, because he did miss some time with injuries, he was still one of the best linebackers in the league, was impactful in all the phases of the defense, and was one of the leaders, which I think that's going to hurt as well, having that veteran leadership on that side of the ball. But yeah, that position group's going to be interesting to watch because a lot of people are down on it, obviously, with JOK gone and now Hicks. But I still think there's some potential in that room to be impactful on that phase of the defense.
We look at Carson Schwarzenegger, and we see him out there just running all over the football field. Do we feel that maybe we hit a home run here with this second round pick, and he's going to be extremely important this season for us at linebacker?
I mean, I wouldn't say we hit a home run yet because it's still fairly early, but you do feel good from what we've seen out there, from what, some of the players around him have said about him. But yeah, I mean, it's early, but, if it's any indication of what he did to Dylan Sampson during one of the plays on Monday, then and with the pads being put on, you have to feel good about the chances of him being hopefully a home run pick as we progress into the 2025 season.
We talk about that play. 43 is Diabate, right? If I remember
Correct.
correctly. So on that
Yeah.
play that Schwarzenegger gave that kind of like forearm shiver to knock down Sampson, Diabate ate up the pulling guard or tight end on that play as well. If you go back and watch it, and forced Sampson back inside. So you'd love to see that from both of those guys. And I feel like the more Diabate has grown over these last couple of seasons, I definitely think that he's somebody that could be a contributor as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there was a lot to like about him coming out as a UDFA out of Utah. He slowly came on at the end of last year, and yeah, it's one of those guys where you can hope he can step in, depending on what happens with Bush's legal situation. But they like to rotate those linebackers in that room. They really only typically put two out there in the base scheme. So you have to have some hope that Diabate is one of those guys that can break out in 2025 and maybe give some relief to that linebacker room, which does have some concerns as of right now.
Yeah, hopefully, been pretty good on special teams as well. So we're really hoping that this linebacker room will really shake itself out and be pretty good this year, especially not having JOK this season is the biggest thing. So we'll see how that all turns out. And then the last thing we wanted to kind of briefly discuss here, because we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, because we were waiting on the new season of our podcast to do that. And that is that the Browns released a brand new helmet. They have gone to an all brown helmet with a double orange stripe down the center of it, along with all brown uniforms as well. How do we feel about these helmets? I think they look pretty slick. I like the matte brown look that they have. I know it's kind of plain, just like their normal helmet. I think it could have been maybe a touch better if they would have done like orange numbers on the helmet. But I feel like these are pretty decent, even though the traditional helmet is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still indifferent on them. I like your idea that you brought it up about the orange numbers because I have the throwback helmet that they put out in 2021. I have that replica sitting in my room. And I love it that they had the numbers on it. But, at first it looked like a black helmet instead of a brown helmet. But then, like, once you see it in some kind of a light, you can see it's that dark matte brown, which is obviously the brown color that they use for the brown of the Browns colors, if that makes sense to anybody, because it sounds really dumb when I just said it. But yeah, I'm indifferent on it. I'm anxious to see what it looks like on the field and like on TV, but I don't know really how to feel about it. I like the uniform, like the jersey, because they've used that before. It makes me think back to the game in 2020 against Dallas when we dominated their defense, put up 49 points. It was Odell Beckham's best game as a Brown during that COVID season before he got hurt. I don't know how to feel about the Brown helmet. Um, I know that it was teased for a while, and there's not much you can do with the colors of orange and brown, but I'm anxious to see what it actually looks like on the football field because the colors or the pictures that we've seen with some of the players modeling the uniforms, I mean, it looks cool, but I'm kind of iffy on it. So I'm anxious to see what it looks like once it's actually played in games. I know they're wearing it 3 times. The first game is week 3 against Green Bay, but yeah, I'm anxious to see what it looks like actually on the field.
Yeah, I feel like this is a great night game uniform, and I don't believe any of the games that they're using this uniform are night games. So,
No, we
um,
don't have any prime time or night games this year, so
that's kind of a downside. I would only make 2 changes to this uniform. I would like how in was that Baker's first season they had the brown uniforms. They had the double stripe down the pants, and they had the stripe on the sleeves of the jersey. I think that would have fit with the stripe on the helmet being the same. And then I would have gone with orange socks with the rest of the uniform too. I think that would have been a pretty good contrast for and make the other part of the uniform pop out as well. So those are the only 2 differences I would make. Oh, and the numbers on the helmet too. So I guess that'd be 3. But I I feel like this is a perfect night game uniform, and unfortunately, we don't have any night games this year to wear them in.
yeah, I feel like that would be pretty slick at night under the lights at Huntington Bank Field with those uniforms. I feel like they would definitely pop in a night game for sure.
I wonder if they're going to, when they wear this helmet, if they're going to do. Remember how Baker's first year they had the brown and orange striped end zones? I wonder if they're going to try and do that for when they wear this helmet again.
They might. I don't know. It's an interesting possibility there.
But we'll see how these. Hopefully they play good. Look good, play good. We'll just hope they play good in any uniform that they put on. They can put on those god awful remakes that they did, as long as they get wins out there. They didn't see too many wins in those ones, but as long as they win in whatever uniform, I'm good with that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
all right. So unfortunately, we did have that was going to be it for the podcast, but we do have a bit of breaking news here, and that is that at training camp today, um, there was a injury, and that is that Martin Emerson was carted off the field. This afternoon. You never want to see the cart come out or anything, but to have the cart come out, obviously you think it could be kind of serious. Emerson is in the last year of his rookie deal, so he's in a contract year. You hope it's nothing serious, and this is just a precaution kind of thing. But anytime you see the cart come out, that is not a good look.
No, it's not. It's a developing story, obviously, but it was a non-contact injury. He went down right away. According to the reports, he had a towel over his head, and the medical staff told Jimmy Haslam, according to Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, because he's out there today at training camp, and Jimmy Haslam didn't look happy. So obviously, it's not good news for Emerson, like you said, contract year, and obviously he's our number two corner. And so hopefully, it's not the worst, but it certainly looks that way. So prayers up to Martin Emerson, because obviously he is a big part of that Browns defense. So hopefully it's not serious, but from all accounts, it looks like it is a very serious injury.
Well, let's kind of briefly touch upon the rest of the corner room too, because obviously you have Denzel Ward, you have Greg Newsome, who is in the last year of his deal, of his rookie
Mm-hmm.
deal, on his fifth-year option. You have a handful of guys uh, behind, these three. So, how do we feel if Emerson is out for a significant amount of time about Denzel Ward being your number one, Newsom being your number two, and then after that?
Yeah, I mean, thank God we didn't trade Greg Newsome because I know that was a lot of talk during the offseason. I was part of that conversation as well, just because I just didn't think he was going to be in the long term cards here, but now he goes back to the outside. You look at Cam Mitchell as a potential nickel corner, maybe Miles Harden. They brought in Nick Needham, who was with the Dolphins for a few years, and he brought him in the offseason. Tony Brown, who was primarily a special teams guy. But yeah, they could use some depth there at the corner position. I know Asante Samuel Jr. is a name that immediately comes to mind. If they need to bring in another corner, because it just doesn't look good from all the videos I've seen of Emerson. He was in tears on the one video I saw, so that doesn't look good. But yeah, the corner room, obviously you have Denzel, who's one of the best in the league. Newsom has shown the talent to be a good corner, but the rest of that room is a question mark. We know AB loves corners, so we will see what happens there. But like I said at the end of my discussion about Emerson, prayers up to the man because it does not look good from all accounts.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, especially the last year of his deal. I think we were kind of excited to see what if he could bounce back this season. He kind of struggled a little bit last year, and you hope that it's nothing serious. Like things will be okay, and maybe he can come back this year. But if it's as bad as it's kind of looking on these videos, especially you see the reaction of the other players around him, not looking too good. So it's one of those things you really, really don't want to see in training camp. So, hopefully he'll be okay, but we'll see on that. All right, Jack. I think we'll get on out of here now. We weren't planning on touching on that, but fortunately we had to. So we will get on out of here. Be sure to give Jack a follow on X at Jack McCurry, me at Anthony Jokey, the Dawgland at the Dawgland. Keep you up to date to all of this news that's been happening. We'll update on there as much as we can. If we need to, we'll hop back in here and talk about Emerson. Once we get some more details about his injury here at practice today. But until next time, always remember, go Browns.